Monday Manna.
Hey, everybody. It is Stephanie here for Monday Manna. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. I know we have a little bit of a late start, but we're going to get right to it. We're going to go right into, we have a very special treat for you on today. In honor of Black History Month, we have a very special guest, and his name is Kofi Khemet. And I am so grateful and excited that he's decided to come on here and share. He has a wealth of knowledge and information. He is a walking, talking encyclopedia concerning Black history. He's well knowledgeable and has such a wide range, and it's up to date with current events and all kind of things related to Black history. So I'm just going to read a little bit of his bio, and then we're going to bring him right on. Hi, Donalyn. God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so grateful that you're here. So Kofi has lived in a lot of places, all the way from University City, Missouri to Tuskegee, Alabama, and from Seattle, Washington to Compton. He is an author who has written the book Freedom Challenge, African American Homeschoolers. And that is one of 50 plus books that he has written or edited in a variety of subjects, from science to history and from sports to games. He has been teaching since 1979. He has taught in the Akron Public Schools. He has taught in the Skills and McErap School. He has taught on a wide range of topics and subject, and he has taught a wide range of age groups. He has completed some of his schooling at the Kent State University, and he has attended there through grad school, where he earned his degrees in educational administration and Pan-African studies. He did his postgraduate studies at UCLA, and he is the CEO of two nonprofit organizations, the Crosby Archives and Cultural Gardens, and Black Facts Educational Research Incorporated. This is a nonprofit curriculum development corporation. Ladies and gentlemen, put your seatbelts on. We are going on a ride and a journey through history. Again, I'm excited that he's here with us. Audience, let's go ahead, Monday Manna family, and give Mr. Kofi Khemet a warm welcome as he comes on stage with us. Hello.
Good evening. How you doing?
I am well. How are you?
Oh, I'm excellent. I had a great day at school today.
Yes. As did I. I'm so honored that you decided to come on here with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'd love to share some of the information I've been able to come across in my travels and in my life. Almost 70 years now.
I love Black History Month. It's one of my favorite months of all times. I'm just going to let you flow and share, why is Black history important to you, and share some hidden jewels and gems about Black history. Like, what I have found is that there is so much that I've learned about Black history after I graduated from even college, right? Stuff I didn't even know or even hear about, right? It's so many hidden things. So I'm just going to let you take the wheel and just share with us tonight.
Thank you. Well, both of my parents are very knowledgeable in terms of Black history, having lived a lot of Black history themselves. My mother is now 92 years old.
Wow.
So she's seen a lot, been there, done that. And then the other thing is that my father actually is the founder of Black History Month, which most people don't realize because nobody's really written a full-throated history of the full-throated story of Black History Month. So most people think that Black History Month just kind of morphed. It went from Negro History Week. All of a sudden, one year, somebody decided they were going to make it Black History Month. And then all of a sudden it was Black History Month. Or some people think that it was what's that guy's name? It was one of those presidents, Gerald Ford. The thing Gerald Ford created Black History Month, and which is definitely not true. In fact, Black History Month started at Kent State on February 1st, 1970. And my father
Wow.
was instrumental in that because he working with the Black United Students Organization as well as other administrators on the campus. There was one other Black administrator on the campus. They came up with a program and actually got it on the university calendar for that year. And it's been on the calendar ever since, up until I think maybe this year. This is the 55th anniversary of the initiation or the initial celebration of Black History Month at Kent State. So that's where
Wow.
we're at right now.
That's amazing. What is it that you would like to say to young people today who may only know about, the Martin Luther Kings, the Rosa Parks, the Harriet Tubmans, things that, that are not hidden? What would you like to say to the young people
In the
to
words of
encourage
Booker,
them?
in the words of Booker T. Washington, I say, lay down your bucket where you are. Put your bucket down right there and start digging. You don't have to go out. You don't have to go to Tucumcari. You don't have to go to Timbuktu. You start your research and to start to document Black history with your story. And that's what everybody says in terms of genealogy. When you study when you are dealing with genealogy, they always say the story you need to document first and foremost is your story. So document your own story and then begin to go back from there to your parents and then your brothers and your sisters and your uncles and your aunts, and you'd be surprised at who you might find in the closet, quote unquote.
That's amazing. Like, I remember my history teacher, Mrs. Brown Hall, who introduced me to some of the hidden things in Black history when I was a student at Firestone High School. She made us do a family tree project. And in this family tree, she wanted us to go back like several generations and start digging, right? And it was through this process that it was unveiled that, like, okay, my great uncle was a detective, did not know that. My great 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 grandmother was Swedish, did not know that. Through this research and through this digging, I was able to like pull up archives, pictures, photos, things that I didn't even know about my family tree, to kind of make sense of my story.
You said Miss Brownhall.
Yes.
What was
Rochelle Brownhow.
what was she teaching?
She was teaching social studies when I was a student in high school.
Where is it? At
Firestone
Firestone.
High School. Yes, I know she's now one of the like deans and assistant principals there.
So when was she there? When was she there teaching?
I was a student at Firestone from 2000 to 2004.
Oh, okay. Because Miss Brownhall, as far as I'm concerned, she is like top echelon, like one of the best principals in Akron. Period.
Yes.
Dot. Bar none.
Yes.
Yeah, I worked with her over at Jennings. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, I didn't realize. I guess I did because I think she was teaching social studies recently over at Higher.
Oh, okay.
But then I heard she was back as a principal again as well over at Firestone. So okay, so yeah, well, there are all kinds of different ways that these discoveries can come about. As we began to research our history, father, my father's father, my grandfather on my father's side, he left somewhere down south when he was 13 years old.
Wow.
And the way that he escaped from the South is by riding the rails. So what that means is that no, he did not get a ticket to get on a train. No, he was not a hobo riding inside a train car. He was riding the rails. He was riding underneath the train, holding on for dear life to some metal bars underneath the train. Now, the real problem with that, besides all the shaking and rattling and rolling and stopping and lurching and just the regular speed, and the possibility of you falling off and, being a goner, the other real danger is that these were steam engines, steam locomotives. And so when they were traveling on their route, they did not stop to get water. They would get water on the fly. So there was a car. I don't know how. I've never seen. I don't know how it was arranged exactly. But from what I understand, there was a flap that would drop down on the bottom of this car, and it would drop down and it would go down into a trough of water. As they were moving, it would go into this trough of water, and that's where the water from the water tower was going to. You see the water towers in the cowboy movies, those water towers where the trains were going by. That water would go down into a trough, and then as the train was moving along, they just dropped that flap down, and the water would just be scooped up into the train.
Whoa!
Because they ain't had time to stop and put in water. They got to keep moving. They got a schedule they're on, right? So if you were not properly affixed like a barnacle to the train, you were in the wrong place. When that flap drops down, you could easily get washed out. And that's where the term, nope, he didn't make the team. He washed out. Yeah, he was a washout. That's where that term comes from. It was a little thing. Right. So that's how my grandfather escaped the South. And we don't know exactly what his name was when he left the South. We know his first name was Fred. We don't know what his last name was, because when he got to Chicago, he picked a whole new name and made that our family name. So we're not related to anybody else with that name unless they're directly related to one of my uncles or my aunt. Then we're not related to none of those other people with the Crosby name.
Do you know the reason why he decided to pick another family name?
Well, we don't. I don't know. I can't speak to it definitively. We tried to interview him. We did interview him, but we were unsuccessful in recording the interview. So I don't know what was said in that interview, but anybody that goes to a new place and changes their name, you got to figure they had some kind of reason. I've changed my name a bunch of times, really? And I'm not running from the law or anything. But in this case, I believe my grandfather was trying to hide out.
Yeah.
And that's why he changed his name. Best I could figure. That was during the time of the Great Migration. So there were a lot because this had to be before the 30s, the 1930s. So we're talking like maybe, it had to be, could have been around the 1920s or maybe a little bit before the 20s, because my grandmother, I know she graduated from South High in Cleveland in 1920.
Oh, wow.
So it would have been, I believe they met before she graduated from high school.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, so in doing this research, we found out we're related to Steve Harvey. It's not R. Kelly. So I guess it must be Rick. No, it's Rick James. So Steve Harvey, Rick James. What's the other one's name that always has to drop his drawers? Kevin Hart. And there's we're not related to Arsenio. Okay. But we're related to a bunch of people. What's his name? The artist? Henry Ossabaw Tanner. That's another one of our relatives through my grandmother's side. And so we couldn't go through grandpa's side. We could only go through my grandmother's side. But then we went through my on my mother's side. Her family has been having family reunions for almost 100 years.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And I didn't realize that grandfather also escaped from the South. because his parents began to get worried that something was going to happen to him if he stayed there, if they stayed there too much longer. So they left when he was quite young, and it had something to do with what he was. Well, I do know that his nickname was Wild Bill.
Hey, how is the connection on your end? Because it's like your voice sounds really funny on your end to me.
Does it?
Yeah, like it's really, really low, like a computer talking.
Low. Is it? So the volume is low?
It sounds like now it sounds like you're sounding like a robot a little bit.
I'm not sure why.
Are you on your Ethernet or Wi-Fi?
I'm on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Definitely not on Ethernet. We might have an Ethernet cord around here, but I don't know if it even works exactly.
Okay.
Oh, that's plugged. If we have one that's plugged into the Wi-Fi.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we'll keep going. Well, hopefully it'll resolve.
I hope so. I don't want to sound like a computer.
I wonder if you sign back on and like if you just came in and came back out, would that help? But we can just keep going and see if it resolves.
And if it doesn't, I can always do that. No problem.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, Black History started. My research into Black History started when I was 8. And we lived in Hiram, Ohio at the time, which is it was a town of 300 people. Now it's got 400. I don't know. It ain't much bigger. It's the home of James A. Garfield, one of the presidents. He lived his house is at the top of the hill that we lived. We lived at the bottom of the hill. He lived at the top of the hill. And apparently he was president of Hiram College at one point. And my dad was a professor at Hiram College.
Really?
Yes. He was my father was a professor of German and Spanish. He was teaching the language, 2 languages, German and Spanish. Mm-hmm.
You know what, Mr. Khemet, let's have you go off and come back on and see, because it's still not resolving. And what you're saying is way too important for the people not to be able to hear what you're saying.
Okay.
So I'll stay right here and talk until you. I see you show.
How do I get? I'll just say, wait a minute.
That link that I emailed you, just log in again. I'm going to remove you. If you exit out of your StreamYard tab and just get back into that link that I emailed you.
Okay. You emailed me link just now?
No, it's the same link that you pulled up.
You want me to hit the one down here at the bottom that says leave studio?
Yeah, leave the studio and then just come back on. Like use the same link that I emailed you for you to get on here.
Okay, I'm gonna try it.
Okay, hopefully that'll help.
All right.
Hey everybody, it's me. I know Mr. Khemet is coming with a wealth of knowledge and information, and I know we're just delving in at this time to these wonderful details on Black history. I know he's going to be sharing pretty soon some hidden gems about the city of Akron, Ohio, and I'm excited and looking forward to what he's going to be sharing with all of us concerning Black history. Are you guys enjoying this Monday Manna on this evening reflection on Black history? Donald, it's so good to see you. Samantha is watching all the way from Ghana, Caribbean. Thank you. God bless you, Samantha. We're honored that you're participating on tonight and taking time to be with us. Yes. And Joshua, God bless you, sir. So glad that you're here on tonight with us. God bless you, Deborah Terry. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you, Robert. Just great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you, Anthony. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you, Jonies. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so excited. Thank you, Donalyn. I'm so glad that you like this. I love, anybody who knows me knows that I absolutely love and adore Black history. There's so much about Black history, unfortunately, that are not in the history books. So much that I I did not start to learn until my adult life. When I was um younger, now my social studies teacher was the bomb.com, Rochelle Brownhall, Mrs. Brownhall. I learned a lot about Black history within my own family because of her. I had also a phenomenal social studies teacher in middle school by the name of Mrs. Brown. And so between Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Brownhall, I also studied the Black experience as one of my history electives in college when I was going to study my degree in music education, and learned quite a bit about Black history that was not in any of the history books that I had heard about. That class went into depth about freedom writers, and that class went into depth about racism that can be hidden at times, and segregation. That professor talked about how he basically, him and his wife were getting ready to buy a house in a nice suburban area, but initially they were declined the opportunity to live in that area, not because they didn't have the money, but because they were African American. The deal was attempted to be blocked. Now they were able to still move there anyway, but it was like they had to jump through so many hurdles due to the fact of their color skin. Hey, Mr. Khemet.
Okay, how's
Oh,
that
that's
sound?
so much better. Thank you so much. Go ahead and recap about how, because what you're saying is way too important for the people not to hear.
Okay, so you want me to go back to where?
You talked about Hiram and how your father was a professor
Right.
at the University of Hiram.
Yeah, my father was a professor of German and Spanish at Hiram College back in the early 60s.
Whoa.
And Hiram is a town of only 300 people. There were no Black children in my school. I was in the third grade then. And no Black teachers, no Black administrators. I was the sole Negro and the butt of all Negro jokes. So anybody had a Negro joke, they want to try it out, they come to me and try out their joke. Very frustrating. It's the kind of thing that'll make you want to not be Black, because life would be so much easier if I were just like everybody else. Then I wouldn't have to suffer these indignities. So that's how I was feeling. I don't know if my mom picked up on that or not, but when I brought my Scholastic catalog home and I had circled the books of my heroes, who I wanted to get books about, it was George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Abe Lincoln. And she was like, well, why don't you get one on the Underground Railroad? And I was like, the what? Was it like a subway or something? What's the underground? Why is it an Underground Railroad? I can't run on top of the ground. I had never heard of it before, but that book was really about Harriet Tubman. And that was my introduction to the fact that Black people even had a history to talk about. And so from there, things just kept growing and developing over time. And I picked up a lot of things since 1963, from 1963 to the present. So when I got older, I was in junior high and high school. I was still in situations like that in terms of my schooling, where there were only 16 Black people in my entire middle school and high school experience. There were only 16 of us in the building out of 800, 900, 1,000, 1,500, whatever it was. There were very few of us. So we still had the same issue with not really hearing or learning anything about our history in our classes. Of course, you got to celebrate Valentine's Day and President's Day and Labor Day and Memorial Day. You celebrate all these days, but Black people are not celebrated on any of those days. It's always somebody else. So when I was in high school, I thought about what I wanted to do in life, and I thought I wanted to be either a lawyer or a doctor, because I wanted to be able to determine my own schedule, when I was going to do things, where I was going to be at, etc. Then I thought about it. I said, well, I don't want to be a doctor, because if somebody came to me with a pussy foot, I wouldn't want to touch that. I don't want to deal with that. So I'd be a lawyer. And I was disabused of that notion in my first class in poli-sci. And I thought I knew something about politics, and I couldn't understand what this woman was talking about at all. I had no idea. So I said, okay, not going to be a lawyer. Then I was lost, and I didn't know which way to go from there. But I knew one thing. I definitely did not want to study Pan-African studies, because I knew my father had an FBI file. I knew everybody he knew had an FBI file because of his activities and the activities that he had them involved in. Anybody that knew my father had an FBI file, basically. So I said, well, I don't want to be under the scrutiny of the FBI, and I know they're watching him, so I'll do something else. And teaching in a public school definitely last on my list. Definitely did not want to do that, avoid that like the plague. But I ended up having my own business. I started my own business, did things of that nature. And when I started homeschooling my children, the question about Black history comes back up. What are we going to teach them about what Black people have done, where we're at? And so I started developing a curriculum where we could focus on the achievements of Black people in the area that we were living at the time. We were living in California. So I started researching the Black history of California. Then when that period of time was over, and I relocated to Ohio, and I started working with children in the Akron public schools, I was asked to put together some materials for the children to learn about the Black history of people in Akron.
Can you hold that a little closer to the camera so the people can see this amazing book? Yes. Okay. And how can people order that book from anywhere? Do you have like a...
let's see. I don't think it's online right now, but they can contact me at, let me see, best contact, 330-842-6773. And they can order a book for me right over the phone.
330, say that again.
330-842-6773.
Wait, 6773. 330-842-6773.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to put that up momentarily. So people, if you want to order that book, you can most definitely do that.
And I rarely, if ever, answer that phone, but it will. You can leave a message, and I'll get the message. Okay, and I'll return your call. So the book is an interactive book, and so inside I have images like this one of Satchel Paige, which I really like. I'm the artist as well, so I do the artwork, all the historical research, but I really thought this was a fly drawing though.
That is amazing.
You know, yeah, I really like.
Have you shared that book with Mrs. Flimmer, the art teacher at Portage Path?
No,
she would love to see that.
Oh, really? Okay.
She loves Black history and all that kind of stuff. She would.
Okay.
She would.
I have to share it with her. So, so I began doing this research, and I came up with a number of images of Black people, and some of them I'm still researching, like this one here, Dorothy Darby. She was a parachute jumper back in the 1930s, living in Cleveland, Ohio, and she was jumping out of airplanes. She jumped into Lake Erie.
Whoa.
From 30,000 feet in the air.
Wow, and that's amazing.
You see the plane behind her. There's the plane. You can see the plane behind her.
Yes.
You might note it has two wings. It's a biplane. So she had to be a bit of a parachute jumper and a wing walker, because she had to get out of the cockpit, walk along the wing, and then jump off the wing to
Wow.
get safely away from the plane.
Wow. That's
Right.
amazing.
It's a bad girl. This is a bad girl. And she did it. You know the reason she was jumping out of airplanes?
No, what?
So she could go to pilot school. She was trying to pay for her schooling. That's why she was jumping out of planes. That's how bad she wanted to go to school. The first time she jumped into Lake Erie, she broke, I think, both her ankles. I know she broke some bones, and I believe it was both her ankles. So you can imagine Black woman jumping into water. Okay, you can start with the Black woman jumping into water. You know, Black women. You know how y'all are about getting in the pool. Okay, there's a whole thing about Black women getting in the pool and not wanting to get in the pool because of the whole hair thing.
Yeah.
Well, she jumped from 30,000 feet into the lake, a very large lake, by the way, and broke her ankles, but she still had to be able to swim well enough in order to get out from under the parachute, because the parachute falls right on top of you, and it's big. So you gotta finagle that thing. You gotta maneuver this parachute so that you can get to some air and people can see where the heck you are to pick you up in a boat. Right. So she jumped out of airplanes over Joe Lewis's camp when he was fighting against Max Schmeling to give him well-wishing greetings from people in Cleveland. It said, I guess she was delivering the mail that time. I don't know. But this woman was something else. So we've got all kinds of people like that in the book. This one here, they didn't name their school after him, Garfield High School, but he was known as Mr. Garfield. And this is Martin Chapman. He was the first Black administrator in Akron, first Black principal of a school in Akron. And his last position, I believe, was at Garfield High School.
Wow.
He was so well known and well liked in the community that the mayor wanted to make him deputy mayor.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he died one day before his retirement.
Oh, man.
He went out for a walk and never came back. Yeah. We had this person here. You've heard of him.
Yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Connected with Akron because he played on the first football team to ever win the NFL championship. Now, they just had the Super Bowl recently. That was Super Bowl, I think, number 59. But before they had the Super Bowl, before there was a Super Bowl, there was an NFL championship. So the first one was won in 1920, also led by another Black man whose picture is over here. He went by the name Fritz Pollard. So if you heard his name, you think he was Polish. You would think he was Polish, period. His name,
though. That
doesn't say, I don't know too many folks named Fritz. Okay. But he led the team. He was the quarterback of the team and he was the coach. So he was a player coach. Back in the day when you were playing Iron Man football, which means that once you get on the field, there's no getting off the field. If you leave the field because you got an injury or something, they don't let you back. You're done for the day. So once you get on that field, you're on the field. You're playing offense and defense for the whole full amount of time the game lasts. You're playing on both sides.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was only 5 foot. I think he was like 5'10", 160, something like that. So they actually literally used to try to kill him. Well, his opponents would try to kill him, and his fans would do likewise.
Whoa.
The Akron fans, they used to like to throw bottles and stuff at him. Yeah, he was 5'7", so short guy, right? They used to throw bottles at him, debris, rocks, stones, anything they could find. They would throw it at him when he came onto the field.
Wow.
So what he had to do was he couldn't change in the locker room with the rest of the players because the whole team was white except for him. He would have to go into the owner of the team owned a department store. He'd go down to his store, change into his uniform, then to ride with him to the football field. I guess the guy would just like roll up on the field and he would just fall out of one of the doors and just roll on to the field, because if they saw him coming, they were going to throw stuff at him. Oh. He'd be a target. And you didn't have much to protect yourself back in the day. All you had was some shoe leather that would go on your head. That's what this is he's wearing here. That's a shoe leather helmet. So it's not like the helmets we have today. It ain't much of a helmet. It's just a piece of shoe leather.
I mean,
all it's supposed to do is keep you from getting...
What are they supposed to do with that? That's crazy. A leather helmet.
Yeah.
Oof.
That's what they had. Well, I've got baseball players in it too. I got a baseball player who was a catcher, and he was the reason that there is a Jackie Robinson. He also played for the Toledo Blue Stockings, and his name is Fleetwood Walker, and he was a catcher back in the day before they invented the glove, the face mask, the helmet, the chest protector, the shin protector. They didn't have any of that. He didn't have nothing. All he had was a uniform and his bare hands to catch the balls behind the plate. And the balls were still coming at 90 some miles an hour. And on top of all that, because he was the only black player on the team and the other teammates were white, well, the pitchers objected to taking orders from a black guy. So when he would signal him, hey, give this one a fastball, make this one a curve, you're supposed to get the catcher is supposed to signal the pitcher as to what kind of ball to pitch to the player that's up on deck. But they wouldn't follow the directions because they didn't want a black man telling them what to do. So he says fastball, they throw a curve. He says curve, they throw a fastball. So he had a lot of broken bones.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine would he have some broken fingers from like the speed of the balls that he had to catch if it hit his finger the wrong way? I mean, man, that could have really went the wrong way.
It did. It went the wrong way frequently because they weren't putting the ball where he was expecting it. He's expecting the ball over here. The ball's showing up over there. So on top of the fact that he didn't have a glove, he also had to worry about where was the ball going to actually come up. He knew about as much as where the ball was going to come up as the person trying to hit it. So these are the kind of people that are featured in my book. And then you can see here, there's some imagery on the cover of trading cards that I have made in honor of these black athletes. And the whole series is it's four different sets in the series, but it's a total of 16 in each set. So that's 64 cards altogether. And
that's absolutely amazing.
Each individual has a serious story to tell and share, especially with young people today.
I mean, these are facts, even things that you're saying that a lot of this stuff is some of the people I knew about, but some of like the parachute lady, never heard of her, before ever, and I just think this is stuff that not only do adults need to know about, but especially our young people. And I think to me, our young people coming up need to know where we've been so they have an idea of what they can become. So they need to hear about the man who was the first administrator in Akron Public Schools, who was African American. They need to hear about the woman who parachuted into Lake Erie. They need to hear about these historical figures of these fantastic African Americans who have left such a phenomenal legacy that to me is hidden and is not shared enough.
Well, it's the best place to hide something is in plain sight. So Vern Odom Boulevard, that's named after Vern Odom, who was the head of the Urban League at one point. What's the other one? The Harold K. Stubbs Justice Center downtown, named after Harold K. Stubbs, who was he a lawyer? I forget exactly what he did that made him well known enough to put his name on the Justice Center. But obviously he was connected with the law in some form or fashion. I just can't quite remember his story. We've got King James Way is part of Main Street downtown, is named after LeBron James. We've got what's another one? Oh, I know, the Ed Davis Community Center.
Yep.
And that one is right across the street from Krause CLC. Right across the street from Krause CLC is the Ed Davis Community Center. And if you go over to the zoo, which is not far from Porter's Path, if you go over to the zoo, there's a tennis court next to the zoo. Over there where Edgewood is at, they got the Edgewood townhomes over there.
Yep.
The Ed Davis tennis court. Ed Davis was running Akron for years as a president of city council, and then he was the clerk of city council for a long time. So we're talking back in the 50s and the 60s. Ed Davis was running city council in Akron. So before Marco Somerville, before Margot Somerville, there was Ed Davis. You also had, oh, I know. What's her name? What's that girl's name? Name of the school. The other school. The one school in Akron named after a black person. There's only one. Helen Arnold.
Hey, Helen Arnold.
Helen Arnold CLC. And that one, their building is, the Urban League is in part of the building, and the other part is the school. So the Urban League, and it's right there on Vern Odom Boulevard, and right across the street from Helen Arnold was Marion Hall. Wasn't a rec center, but there was a Marion Hall Center that was across the street from Helen Arnold CLC, where Helen Arnold is today. And Marion Hall is Helen Arnold's sister. They're sisters. One of them was Helen Arnold was dealing with the school board and issues dealing with education. Her sister was a community activist. And so both of those two black women have buildings named after them right there on Vern Odom Boulevard. So there are monuments, there are streets, there are buildings that are named after black people in Akron, but it's not being communicated through the curriculum in the schools.
Would you like to share with the young people why Helen Arnold is so significant and talk about a few of her contributions to Akron and society overall?
Well, Helen Arnold started off as a community activist. Well, you know what? I think she just started as a parent, a concerned parent who was concerned about what was happening with her children in the school. Later on, she ended up becoming, as she got involved, she became a community activist and eventually ended up being the president of the of APS school board, of the Akron Public Schools school board. So as far as I can tell, she was the first black person to be the head of the Akron Public School Board. So at that point, she had a lot of sway, a lot of political clout in the city, and particularly dealing with education. She was one of the people that was supportive of the creation of the Afrocentric school that we used to have in Akron, the Stewart Afrocentric. And that's a whole another story. And that's also in a building that's still named after, what's his name? James Stewart. I think his first name is James. But Mr. Stewart, who was a well-known Black photographer in Akron. So we've got more than a little history in Akron. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, I just went by there the other day, the Sojourner Truth Legacy Plaza. Have you been there yet?
No.
Right. Well, it's right downtown on High Street, right in front of the United Way building. So the United Way has a new building. It's right over there between the new building for the school board, the new headquarters for the school board, and the old Smalls building up on the hill. Right between there is the United Way building. Matter of fact, if you're at the Smalls building, it's directly outside of that, past that parking lot. There's the United Way building, and in front of that building, there's a large plaza, and we have a statue there, either life size or extra large life size. I mean, it's a large statue of Sojourner Truth there. It was just dedicated last year, 2024. It was a 20-year project in the making, and the person who did the sculpture is Woodrow Nash, an internationally renowned sculptor, Black sculptor, who lives in Akron. And he has populated plantations, like an old Southern plantation. They asked him to come down there and create sculptures to put on the plantation that would make people feel like people were still populating that plantation. So a lot of sculptures down there, and his stuff is not cheap.
That's
but
amazing.
it's definitely fine art. So we have more than a little bit of Black history, and Woodrow's still alive. So is Rita Dove, and she's also in my children's book, my poster book here. I've also got Rita Dove because Rita Dove was the first Black cheerleader at Bookto High School.
Whoa.
Yeah, she was the first Black, right? And so the last time I saw her at E.J. Thomas, she brought her baton with her and was throwing it up in the air and twirling it around and catching it. So Rita Dove still has it because she the first Black, I said cheerleader, I meant majorette. She was the first Black majorette at Bookto High School. So
wow.
Not all of so many of the people that are in the book are no longer living, but I've tried to put as many in there as I can that are still alive, like Simone Biles. Right. She's not from Akron, but she's from Ohio.
I didn't know she was from Ohio, though.
Yeah, she was born in Columbus. But her mother couldn't take care of her and her siblings. She had about 4 siblings. So they went into the foster care system. And then her uncle, I think it was her uncle, and her aunt, some other relatives, they rescued the children from the foster care system. And, 1 or 2 of them went this way and 1 or 2 went that way. But they got them all out of the foster care system. But that ended her up in Texas. So she's very beholden to Texas because she grew up in Texas, but she was born right here in Ohio. So lot of history. John Brown. Also, I thought John Brown was from somewhere else. I never could really put my finger on it until recently when I decided to do some writing about John Brown. Then it dawned on me that his father, his whole family moved from Connecticut on the East Coast to the Western Reserve, to the Connecticut's Western Reserve, which is Ohio, now known as Ohio. This is the Western Reserve of Connecticut. Because when they drew the lines for the states, the line just went out to infinity. So that went right, infinity goes right through Ohio. So his family moved to Ohio in the 1800s, early 1800s, I think. And Hudson, Ohio, apparently was a hotbed of abolitionism. Yeah, I mean, they just had a lot of abolitionists all up in around in here. And so he grew up with this idea that slavery was wrong and it needed to stop. So it wasn't like, and some of them believed that it wasn't going to happen through peaceful means. They tried all the peaceful means and they'd given up and they were ready to take up arms. So John Brown was not as an anomalous as he seems, because it seems like John Brown just came out of nowhere. It's like this weird white guy who died fighting to free black folks. No, there was a whole history and a tradition, and it was right here in Ohio.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. What would you say that was a thing that really drew you to history?
I like to know things. I like to know about things. You find an odd word, and I'll look it up. Desuetude. What does that mean? Desuetude. That came up the other day. I was reading a document by Carter G. Woodson, who founded Negro History Week. And he used this word desuetude. I'm like, okay, I kind of understand what it means in context, but I'm going to have to go look it up. I like to know things. I like to know what's going on around me. I like to be aware of what's going on around me. It's done me well, I think. Help keep me out of some situations and keeps me on my toes.
What would you say to that the importance of knowing about Black history is to young people, and what should it be to young people? Because I think times are just, we're in a day and living in a day and time and in a climate, and do you feel like it's important for young people to know what they can become, where they've been, their story of their lineage? How important is that?
Well, everybody wants to GPS everything today, right?
Yeah.
So I look at GPS as a distraction, because it means that you don't have to really know where you're from to know where you're going. You just depend on somebody, some unknown personages behind the veil, to tell you where to go and when to go and which way to go and how to get there and everything. And my thought is that if you don't know where you're from, how can you know where you're going? You can't even really set a destination unless you know where you're from. So, I mean, and that's just if you're trying to go anywhere to do anything, you need to know where you're at, where you're from, where you came from to get where you're at, to be able to continue to go somewhere else. But, or even to return to where you came from. Sometimes you need to go back to where you came from. Maybe there's something there that you forgot. And so we have a saying from West Africa, amongst the people, the Akan people of Ghana, is called Sankofa. And Sankofa means to return and fetch it. And this is something that we have to do for ourselves. Nobody else can do it for us. That thought also comes from Marcus Garvey, who said that we can do. He said two things. We said a bunch of things, but these are the two that I remember a lot. I think about a lot. That, what was that? How did that go? We have to do for ourselves what others cannot do for us. That's one. The other one is that, man, I can't remember, but that one is definitely important. We have to do for ourselves what others cannot do for us. We shouldn't depend on other people to do everything for us. So we need to get out just talk to our relatives, put down our electronic devices and talk to somebody. We've got some relatives that when we see them, we don't really see them. They're sitting right in front of us, but they're oblivious to the fact that we're in the room, what we're doing, what we're talking about, because they're knee deep into their electronic device. And it's a devilish thing. That's why they call it a device in the first place. So we really need, it doesn't matter how old you are. Everyone needs to know where they're from so they can know where they're going.
I think that's critical.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so critical. Like, I love what you said. And I'm paraphrasing what you said, the quote about it's not good to depend on other people to do everything for you. Some stuff, you just got to do it for yourself. You got to make it happen. You got to dig. You have to research. I mean, and I don't know, I'm a big advocate on not just taking things, what people say at face value, but investigating for myself, right? In terms of the history, in terms of, like you said, there's so many things, even in this city of Akron, that it's such a rich history, such a rich legacy, and it's not talked about. And I feel like certain things are getting lost in translation from one generation to the next, because it's not in history books. It's not really being talked about. Like you said, everybody's so concerned about their devices and social media, but they're, to me, are not as concerned about the legacy of where they've come from and building a new legacy. And I heard Pastor Danelia Williams say this, and it really stuck with me. She said that, it's okay to observe what your ancestors have done and admire what they've done. But she said, I need you to think about this as well. I need you to think about the fact that right now you are an ancestor in this moment, and you are paving the way right now for the next generation. And you're the one who's going to have to make it happen for you and your family. And I don't know, that's something that really stuck with me, because, man, I never thought about, I guess technically I am an ancestor in the making of the things that I'm doing, how I'm touching and outreaching my community, how, as you said, being in the school system, being able to touch the young people, being able to teach them and train them and cultivate them. I mean, that's like, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to have that opportunity to do that. But I just, again, this has just been such a rich an uplifting interview. We're going to have you back on, because you're just an open encyclopedia full of a wealth of knowledge. And I want to bring you on for some more broadcasts and some more shows as well in the near future.
It'd be a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. Is there any closing thoughts that you would like to leave the audience with before we close?
Just that Black history has been, what's the word for it? Well, you said closing words, so I want to be brief. Carter G. Woodson founded the Journal of Negro History back in 1916. And the reason he founded the journal was to promote the idea that there is such a thing, and that it's worthy of studying on an academic level in the academy, as Negro history. Because if you asked anybody at that time, they would tell you there's no such thing as Negro history. Negroes don't have a history. There's nothing there, nothing to see. But he didn't believe that. He didn't go along with that. And he started an organization, and him, along with some other men, they started an organization, and they've kept it going 1916 to 2016. It's still going. This is 2025. It's still going. And they regularly publish a an African American a journal that has articles in it relevant to the telling of our story. And our story is not all in the past, it's in the present. Like you said, we're making Black history right now today. And we need to keep on making Black history. So, that's it. Last word. Black history, not for a month, but for a lifetime. We need to be dealing with Black history, not for a month, but for a lifetime. Because that's how long we're going to be Black.
I love that. Oh, that is so rich. That is so rich. Well, listen, I thank you so much for coming on. Do you have a way that our audience can give if there's anybody who would like to give to you on this evening?
Yes, they can cash app to Black Facts. That's BLAKFACTS Educational Research Incorporated. So make sure they don't put a C in the Black. If you put a C in my Black, it's not going. It's not. It'll go somewhere else. So BLAKFACTS, one word, and then you should see the educational research come up behind it, and we got a yellow logo that'll be on the Cash App page.
So I'm putting that. I'm getting ready to put that on a screen, and I want to make sure that I type that correctly before I put it on a screen for those people who would like to take the time to give tonight. Black BLAKFACT Educational Research.
Yes.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yep.
Let me put it up. I mean, you could tell me to make sure that did I do that right?
It looks right to me.
Okay. So
I don't know if you have to put all the rest of that in there, but you definitely have to put the Black Facts part in there.
Let me see. I'm going to try to pull it up on my Cash App now so I can see to make sure that I'm.
I think I have it on my phone. Let me see. Oh, Cash App. What's it saying?
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Let me adjust that.
Yeah, it says Black Facts. It does have edu and then research after it. Yep.
Let me do this too, so everybody knows that it's Cash App.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, take two. All right. I didn't think that's it, right?
That should work. Yep, that should work.
Okay, for those of you guys who would like to take the time to donate to Mr. Khemet for coming on, for taking time, you can do so here at Cash App $ Black Facts, spelled as it is, as you see it here on the screen. I do want to make one more shout out as well, and I'm going to put that Black Facts right back up. But if you want to, could you hold that book up, Mr. Khemet? Go order a copy of this phenomenal book that is a coloring book, but also obtains historical facts about Ohio's Black athletes. You can do so by dialing this number to contact Mr. Khemet himself so you can order your copy. Again, if you would like to donate to Mr. Khemet on this evening, you can do so by going to $ Black Facts at Cash App. I also want to make a couple additional announcements. You guys know that Monday Manna is a platform, and if you would like to, you can become a Monday Manna partner, a Monday Manna subscriber. Okay, and that will give you additional benefits and additional access. You can go by going to Patreon to do that and type in Monday Manna, and you will see that you can become a partner. Now, if you do become a partner and you want additional access, you would at least need to become a Monday Manna Partner Silver. Also, if you are interested in receiving piano lessons, you can go to True Sound School of Music. You can contact me and send me an inbox for more information if you're looking to accelerate on your music. If you're looking to learn more about prophecy and prophesying, you can do that by signing up for my virtual School of Prophets class. Also, you can also go inbox me if you're interested on a coaching session as well. Again, one last time, I do want to say that if you would like to purchase a book from Mr. Khemet, you can do that by typing in this number here on your screen, 330-842-6773. And again, if you would like to donate to Mr. Khemet for coming on tonight with sharing, you can do so as well. Thank you so much, Monday Manna family, for coming on and tuning in. I'm going to do a session with my partners in about 5 minutes, but let's give a warm celebration, Monday Manna family, for Mr. Khemet coming on Monday Manna tonight. Thank you so much again for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Monday Manna, we're out.